Okay, hi everyone. I can see that quite a few people are saying hello in the chat already. This is fabulous. I love to see that. Thank you for joining us today. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Gellman, and I am the product manager of our online leads program, Smart Leads. So as I said, you can see that some people are saying hello in the chat, and that's also where you will put any questions that you have throughout the presentation. Just throw your questions in there. And if we can't answer them during the presentation, we will get to them at the end. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, here's the agenda. First, as you know, we have our wonderful guest speaker with us today. Her name is Jennifer Kane. So we'll start off with a Q&A that I'm going to do with Jennifer. And then I'm going to talk about, how you should set up your lead process. I'm really going to focus on why you need to use a CRM and an action plan. And then I'm going to talk about how to customize an action plan. And then we will finish it up by doing a little return on investment analysis, because it's extremely important for you to know if a certain venture that you are pursuing is profitable or not. Okay, so to start, why should you be interested in smart leads? Um, well, all the leads that come from Smart Leads come from royallepage.ca. And this is our national website. It has 3.4 million monthly visits. Our website's also optimized for mobile use. And, does your website get that kind of traffic? Is your website optimized? Sure, you can get leads from your own website. And, it's a great thing to do, but you also have to realize that there's a lot of cost and time to set up and maintain your own web page. Agents can spend thousands of dollars every year on websites and generating their own online leads. So why not cut some costs by capitalizing on the traffic of our national website? That way you don't need to invest a lot of money into your own website and lead generation. Smart Leads really is perfect for an agent looking to start more business. And speaking of this, speaking of how participating in Smart Leads is great for an agent who wants more business, please help me welcome Jennifer Kane. She just joined Royal LePage in North Bay this spring after working in the dental field for over 20 years. She's married with 2 teenage daughters. She's been a homeowner for a long time, having bought and sold multiple properties, and she also has experience as a general contractor. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Steph.
Yeah, very happy to have you here. So we're just going to dive right into the Q&A. And, if anybody has questions for Jennifer as we go along, you can put them into the chat now. And then when I'm done my questions, we can get to yours. So we're going to start talking about, Jennifer, when did you start in real estate?
Well, Steph, I finished my courses in April and began working part time at Royal LePage in May. And part time being about 30 hours a week here and still working part time as a dental hygienist. So it was making for a pretty crazy schedule. And so what I decided to do was retire from the dental field and start full time here at Royal LePage in North Bay mid October.
Wow. Okay. So why this big career change?
Well, like you had said, I've been in the healthcare field for over 20 years and I truly enjoyed it, but I wanted more. I was like seeking a new experience. And I always, loved the idea of being sort of self employed and working on my own. And being in real estate was one way I could work on my own business without having to have like the brick and mortar store and be responsible for all of the inventory. So it had always intrigued me as well. And it just wasn't something that was really conducive when my kids were young, having a younger family and being on call all the time, it wouldn't have worked for me. At that time, I needed structure, and that was very important to me. But now they're 16 and 18, and I can be more flexible. And I am now, able to work at my schedule and, meet the demands that a realtor requires.
Absolutely. Okay, so when you started up with Royal LePage, why did you want to be part of the distributed leads portion of Smart Leads with your office?
Well, at Royal LePage here in North Bay, they're excellent at helping you like grow professionally and personally, and that's a big part of the team approach here. So when my broker suggested I join in and become part of the E team, which was a program she was offering to help build our clientele, I jumped at the opportunity. I mean, this was a great way to make connections without having to be out there, cold calling or door knocking. And we were a fairly small group called the E team, and our intent was just, to see how many E leads that we could convert. So that's how it started, and we met once a week, probably for about 1 to 2 hours to discuss like the concepts and strategies that we were using and how they were working at converting these leads to possible transactions. And so that team effort and with the help of Smart Studio, which like is fabulous. It provides you with like all the scripted dialogues that you can, alter and personalize if you want. They have a 45-day plan to convert and qualify leads. So I just thought, why not? What do I have to lose? I'm new.
That's great. Yeah, no, and it's wonderful that your broker is providing that training and support and encouraging you guys to share strategies. That's wonderful. Um, okay, so can you tell us about the training that you did at your office to kind of get you prepared to work leads?
Well, as I said earlier, like my broker and we have an in-office trainer here. They're really supportive with helping us grow our own businesses. So they provided me with as much as they could. In my downtime before starting at Royal LePage, I would come into the brokerage and watch the webinars that and tutorials provided by Royal LePage and Smart Studios. And so when I had questions, I'd write them down and go and meet the in-office trainer or the broker. And they were great to answer those questions, offer support and guidance. And I mean, when I first started, I didn't really know a lot about leads, CRM, databases. And, aside from the brief coverage that you have when you're taking your realtor courses. A lot of this information was like provided through that smart studio. I went through everything and tried to figure out how to get a database going. And yeah, so that's
Yeah,
kind of where I started.
fabulous. So, okay, so you started part time in April, May. You did some training. When did you actually start receiving leads?
I would say it was like early June.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about how many have closed?
I have had 8 successful e-leads that have closed that I've
Hmm.
received through Smart Leads, which out of 54 leads that I have received isn't that bad.
No, that's great. That's actually a 14.8% close rate, and the industry average is 1%. So you're blowing them out of the water.
Oh, thank you, Steph. And it may not seem like a lot to someone else, but that's 8 closes that I wouldn't have had any other way. So, and they varied. There's been, some that have been pretty weak. I'd say 26 out of the 54 were weak. They were, just being nosy or just wanted to know something really brief about a property, not serious. There were 6 that I'm no longer working with because they were like going to relocate to our area. They, waiting for jobs, that sort of thing. And now they're not. I've worked with some that, really wanted to buy a home, kind of got to the process, but they need to work on their financing a little bit more. So that's 2 future leads that may come back to me. And then there's 2 that made contact with me because they're thinking of listing their home in the new year. So that's a good thing.
Yeah,
And I have 8 that I'm working with fairly actively. So,
that's great. That's great. So, I mean, even though, over half of them were no good, by my calculations, about 63%, they were just, it didn't happen for various different reasons. It sounds like the other 47%, some of them have closed and other ones you see as futures
mhm,
coming up. Great.
for sure.
Um, so let's see, can you tell us about some of those leads? Do you have any fun stories to share with us about working with them?
Well, that's funny. I have an interesting story. I had one lead that came in and his, you know, basic thing. I would like to know more about this property. And So he also wanted to know about more properties in our area in a certain price range. So I responded and worked at trying to gain more details so that I knew what criteria to, research for him. So after a few back and forth emails, I found out that he could only come to North Bay at certain times because he was coming from Toronto and he was coming by bus.
That sounds great. He's got a lot of money if he's traveling by bus.
So I'm like, this is interesting. He wants to buy a house, but he doesn't have a car. So after a few more back and forth emails, we finally connected in person and we met at the office and off we went to look at these, the top 5 on his list. So by the end of the day, he'd narrowed it down to 2 properties. And so the next day we went and viewed them again. And then he picked his favorite one. And then, you know, what do you know? This questionable lead put a cash offer in on a property and we closed it in 5 weeks. No mortgage, nothing. And I was just like, wow, wouldn't it be awesome if they were all like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, so that one was definitely a very lucky one. And so I guess the point of that story is don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And, I have to say that out of a lot of leads, that one was definitely one I thought was going nowhere. So he turned out to be an awesome young man. He was able to make a great investment due to some inherited money. Who knew? And he eventually confided in me that, he had contacted a realtor and they didn't take him seriously and never really got back to him. So, I congratulated this young man on being the youngest investor that I've had the privilege to work with, and he was only like 21. So
Abs-
yeah, that was
Absolutely.
a good experience.
So the leads that you get, I actually there's a couple people have asked some questions about the leads that you've received. Are they purchases? Have you had any rental or lease leads?
I have not had any lease leads or rental leads. No.
No, I guess it's not really that much of a thing up in Thunder or North Bay. There's not a huge rental market up there. Um, okay. And then, so what else can you tell us about the leads? I mean, do they all, when they come in, do they seem like gold right off the bat? Or do they have kind of general questions? Um, is there any sort of consistency with them?
I would say that they are very varied. Some of them will come in and you know, they're quick to respond and purchase, and other ones are the absolute opposite. That being said, one of the things that I find with the smart leads is that a lot of them are first time buyers um,
Okay.
and are, of the younger generation. So they're a little bit more telephone shy. They kind of prefer to communicate by text or email. I mean, that's how they communicate with everyone in their lives. I know I have 2 teenage daughters, so it makes sense that they would be online leads as opposed to, someone calling in on a duty call.
Absolutely. So, can you talk about the outreach that you do with the leads? I know with the guy that took the bus on up to town, you told me that you really persisted in texting him and emailing him, even though you were kind of unsure if it would turn into anything else.
Yeah, I would say that the number one thing is like to respond as soon as you can. They're definitely impressed when you do that. And our team has a 5-minute limit. We have 5 minutes to accept that lead or it gets passed on to the next person. So that's very, very important. I would suggest like looking at Smart Studio as well, because they have so many steps that you can follow and you can personalize it. But working with them, and if you can get their phone number, I find that's like a really good thing because then you can just kind of stay in contact a little bit more easily with them, and you can keep your tones professional and friendly and just try and engage with them, you know.
Absolutely. And I like how you talked about how the action plan can be personalized because I am going to be showing that to our audience
Okay.
a little bit later in the webinar. So that's great.
Yeah, so with your action plans, then you can also, keep all your notes there. I keep all my notes in the Smart Studio because it's easy to go back and reflect on. And I send out a lot of my emails from there because the templates and how professional Royal LePage's emails send out from that Smart Studio is really, really nice. So
Great.
the other thing I do, if I can, is put them on a drip campaign right away. That was one thing that I did to personalize mine because it says, if you're following the steps to put them on a drip campaign a little bit later on. But I like to put them on right at the start. That way they receive information routinely from me, keeps me top of mind for them. And even if they're not serious, maybe when they are, they'll contact me because they're getting information about buying a home and how to prepare for that. So,
That's a great idea. Yeah. Okay, so what other advice would you have for an agent who's thinking about starting to work with online leads?
well, I say go for it. I mean, I think that, aside from referrals and that, this is probably going to be the way for the future for many. There- you know, Being on emails and texting is just so much, it's just popular now. The trick is going to be how quickly, like I said earlier, you can respond and build a trusting relationship with them. How quick you can establish like what criteria they're after, and therefore you can have a better relationship. And the more details you acquire, the more competent you're going to appear, right? Because you're bringing them what they want.
Fabulous. Okay, and then finally, what advice would you have for an agent who's currently working with leads but is having a hard time closing them?
Oh, Steph, I'm so new to this industry. I mean, I'm not a seasoned realtor, but
But what
my
have you learned in your short time?
my experience is to just try and establish an plan that works for you. Uh, your response time is going to be crucial, and for the small amount of time and effort it takes, why give up on it? I mean, you're encouraged to spend time and energy nurturing your past clients, which is an excellent way to get referrals and future moves. But when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of people in your history, spending a little bit of time on leads and they're coming to you because they're interested in a property. So see where it takes you.
Fabulous. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. Um, I see a few questions coming in. They're more kind of general ones that I can answer. So I don't see anything specific for you right now. So I'm just going to ask you to hang tight. There's probably going to be some that come in as I present.
Okay.
And then, so I'm going to take over for now. And then John, I see your question and I will answer it at the end. Okay, so let me move along. That was wonderful. So I hope people enjoyed Jennifer's talk. Now I'm going to dive back into the driver's seat here. And, I want to really talk about, it's important to just not be busy. I want you to be productive. This is the main point. So what do I mean by that? Well, you need a routine. So you want to organize your time, and in the time in the day for specific tasks. A really good idea is to set aside a time every day to work your leads and stick with it. So if you tell yourself from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm going to do my drip campaigns, I'm going to do my email outreaches, do it daily. Don't deviate from that routine, because what you do every day will become your fate. This allows you to enter a state of flow. And then you just kind of wake up and you start acting, as opposed to waiting and thinking and questioning, trying to muster up the motivation to do it. Just make it a routine. Now, that being said, always, as Jennifer said, do the first outreach as soon as possible. Okay, the next thing that's super important to do is prioritize your tasks. So focus on your goals. Do you have a financial goal for the coming year? If you don't, then I strongly suggest that you come up with a financial goal. Um, and or maybe you have a goal of increasing the number of contacts in your book. So that's something that Jennifer wanted to do. So you got to think about, well, how do leads factor into these goals? And then also don't forget to reward yourself. So Maybe answering leads is new for you and you find it to be kind of hard work. Give yourself a little reward. Watch a cute cat video or something after you do a half an hour of outreach. And then also give yourself a big reward once you've closed a deal. Take yourself and maybe your partner out for a nice dinner, because hard work without rewards is grueling. Okay. The other thing that's super important is you need a CRM. So, a good CRM will help you manage practices, strategies, and technologies to manage and analyze customer interactions and data through the customer life cycle. And this is done with the goal of improving business relationships with your customers, assisting in customer retention, and driving sales growth. Now, there was a survey that was done on LinkedIn, and out of the top salespeople that were surveyed, 80% of them said that a CRM is critical or extremely critical to their ability to close deals. Okay, so we keep telling you you need a CRM. Well, we have one for you that you can use at no cost, and it's called Smart Studio. It integrates with Smart Leads. What that means is as soon as you accept a lead via Smart Leads, it goes automatically into your Smart Studio CRM. You don't need to manually enter people. When the person comes into your Smart Studio account, there's an action plan, a 45-day online lead action plan that's automatically applied to that person. And that action plan gives you prompts and tells you what to do to reach out to the person. And also, it's professionally designed and templated. Okay, so what's an action plan? Well, it's a set of repeatable tasks applied to a lead or contact to automate your marketing and communication, such as calls and emails. And, an action plan, even for a seasoned veteran, is super important. And it goes along with the importance of routine, because if you follow steps, it just saves you from the effort of thinking. And geniuses across the world have known that repeating the same thing, following steps, are what make your life easier, because you won't be wasting your brain power trying to figure out what to do next. Okay, other reasons to follow an action plan is we can see that the conversion rates go up substantially. So the plan will keep you on track by laying out a framework for your behaviors. This is extremely valuable for you if you are new, but it's even useful, like I said before, if you're experienced, because you can follow a well thought out action plan that abides by known best practices to close leads. So using scripts, it keeps you focused on the task at hand, and it allows you to listen more because you won't need to think about what to say. And scripts enable you to use words and phrases that other people have been successful using. So we have in Smart Studio, like we said, we have this 45-day online lead conversion action plan. This is based on best practices gathered from industry experts like Richard Robbins International, the book, The Conversion Code by Chris Smith, which if you haven't read that book, you really should pick it up. I'm going to repeat it. It's called The Conversion Code, written by Chris Smith. It's fabulous. And the action plan has also been designed with feedback from successful agents like you. Now, we know that leads convert between the second and the 12th contact attempt, most likely after the 5th. By making 6 contact attempts, you have a 93% chance at better reaching a potential client than if you make fewer attempts. Nevertheless, the average agent makes 1.5 contact attempts with a lead. Okay, so as Jennifer was saying, personalizing is super important. So, actors, they use scripts. Every single actor uses a script, but a great one makes it their own. And you can do the same. Just think of the leads as your audience. When you start off, use the created scripts, and then over time, you can personalize them. And, I'm going to stop talking about the scripts, and now I'm actually going to show you some stuff in Smart Studio because I want you to actually get an idea of what I am talking about. Okay, so Here I am, I'm pulling up the RLP network. Now to access Smart Studio, you go to marketing and then you go Smart Studio. Okay, so now you just click on Launch Smart Studio, and this is going to bring up your Smart Studio CRM. There's also the marketing suite and all that jazz, but we're not going to go into the marketing. We're just going to go into My Book. This is where your CRM and your contacts and your leads live. So to find your leads, you're going to click on My Leads. Now, I'm not a real agent, so I don't have real leads. I just have pretend leads. One thing I want to bring your attention to is that every smart lead that comes in is going to have a little star up here, and it's going to be called an enterprise lead. And that's going to help you kind of distinguish your leads from each other. They're all going to come in with a status of attempting contact. So it's going to look like that. And they will all have the 45-day online lead action plan applied to it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to show you briefly is how to customize the action plan and where you can see the action plan. You're going to go to campaigns up here, and we can see here action plans. Okay, so right here is the 45-day online lead conversion action plan. And we can click here and click edit action plan tasks. Now we can see here, these are all the different tasks. We can see it lasts 45 days. And you can see if you hover over these little blue dots, it's going to explain the logic of each step. I strongly suggest that you go through this and you go through each one of these and read the logic to fully understand why we're suggesting you do the things that you do. Now, to see the script, for example, first contact attempt phone call, obviously, if they included a phone number, you want to call them first. Some of them may not include a phone number. So if it didn't have a phone number, you would just jump to number 2, email. But let's just have a look at the script here. And we can see here, here's the script. So there is parts that are in parentheses. That's for you to personalize, like lead name, obviously. But you can go in and you can type et cetera, et cetera. You can write whatever you want in here to put it into your own words. And, you know, we always recommend that when you first start, you just go by the script at hand. But as you start to feel comfortable, you want to tweak it, you make it your own, you use your own words so it sounds more like you and you feel comfortable using it. And then obviously, if you make any changes, you just click save. Now, the great thing is now any lead that has this action plan applied, all the changes that I've made to the script are going to apply to all of those leads. So I don't have to go into each and every single lead to tweak the scripts and stuff. It just goes on to all of them. Other things that you can do in here is you can drag them around. So Jennifer was saying she adds people to the drip campaign sooner than what is recommended. We recommend on day 14. So, you know, Jennifer might want to just grab this and she can move it right up to here. And she says, well, I'm doing that on day 1. You know, that works for me. I like this. So I'm just going to push it up here. And now I have it saved. And now it's going to be something that I do at the start because I know that works for me. Now, like I said, if you want to make any changes, you click save. Now, I do want to show you one other cool thing that you can do with the action plans is, you know, like I mentioned, if you click save, all the changes are going to stick here, but maybe you don't want to necessarily change this whole action plan. Maybe you want to make a custom one that's a little bit unique. So I can close this and I'm going to show you. If you click back on manage action plans, you can do, for example, add a new action plan, and you could click here. You can create your own action plan. Or what you can do is you can copy one and edit that. So let's say I like this 45-day one. I don't want to change it too much, but I want to make some changes that I would use for other people. I'm going to click here and say clone. And what that's going to do is it is going to make a copy of it. And I'm actually just going to change it. And I'm going to make a seller one that's based on this, but a little unique. So I'm going to click create. So now I can go in here and I have it. This is all just a copy of the 45-day one, but I can tweak this. So now if, for example, once I figured out what kind of lead it is and I go, this guy is a seller lead, I can apply the seller action plan to him once I've made the tweaks to make it more useful. Another thing that I suggest that you do if you are feeling adventurous and feeling like customizing things is making the action plan longer. So, we know that some leads can take months to convert, yet the action plan only lasts 45 days. Now, there is plans from RLP Corporate here to expand this action plan to last a few months longer, and it's going to happen sometime in the new year. But if you're feeling ambitious, why don't you take a shot at it and add in some future steps you can take to incubate those leads? So let's say I want to do this and I want to add in a step after this. I can click add and I'm going to add a new task on day 50, for example. I'm going to call it put them on open house mailing list, because why not? They might be interested to hear about my open houses. And it's an administrative task. Perfect. So now I click add. So now I can see that there we go. After I've done all of these things, I'm still not going to call it a dead lead, even if they haven't gotten in touch with me, because I'm throwing them on a mailing list. Why not? Other things that you can do, that you could add as an action plan, is send a request to them to follow you on social media or subscribe to your newsletter. Add them on a client for life or e-newsletter campaign, which is another one of our drips. Put them on your holiday card e-list. Whatever, just do stuff to keep yourself top of mind. So when they do decide to come around and buy and sell, it's going to be with you and not with someone else. Like I said, some of these can take months, but they will buy a house eventually, and you want them to come to you. Okay. So let me just get out of here. Perfect. Okay. So that is about personalizing. Okay. So by the end of the year, we're going to have a Smart Studio CRM mobile app, and this is going to make life a lot easier for you to stay on top of your activities. There's going to be calendar and task management, a contact database. You're going to be able to search by people, and you can update your leads at the tap of a finger. This is going to be really wonderful, because I've had a few people tell me, I really like Smart Studio, but I don't like how I have to use it at a desktop. So now, once the app is out before the end of year, you're going to be able to do it anywhere that you have your smartphone. Okay, so let's talk about your lead ROI, because really, you want to make sure that all your work is worthwhile. So, long story short, if the average value of a closed deal is greater than the cost of the lead times the number of leads to get a deal, then your online lead source is profitable. Sound easy? Maybe not. So what I've done is I've made a little calculator, and I'm going to send everybody an email with this so you can have it for your own. You can play with it on your own and plug in your own numbers. But I want to highlight to you what this means so you can understand how to use it. So these fields in green are fields that you can edit. These ones are locked because they're all formulas. So what you want to do is you want to plug in your average commission after you pay your split. Now, the reason for that is it varies so much across the country that this is the way that we decide to calculate it. So let's pretend that, for me in my market, after I do my broker and myself split, I bring back $3,000. And you want to plug in your estimated annual lead volume. And if you're not certain about that, you should ask your broker, but you should be keeping track of them. And they are all in Smart Studio right now. So you could have a look now since we're getting close to the end of year. You could look at how many you have and use that as an estimate for next year. Next, you want to plug in your close rate. Now, as I said before, the typical agent will have a close rate of 1%. Well-managed leads get to 4 to 6%. Now, down here, these last three areas are where you would plug in the cost per lead. Now, the cost per lead varies significantly across the country. And that's why I have three different boxes. So some agents are paying a referral fee on closes, some of them up to 25%, some more, some less. Some agents are paying a flat fee per leads, maybe $30. And some agents are paying a monthly fee. Now, this is kind of a worst case scenario of this person here in my pretend world is paying a referral and the cost per lead and an annual fixed lead fee. That's not very realistic. What's more realistic is that and that. But you can play around and you can enter different numbers. Maybe at your office, you pay 25% referral plus $10 per lead. You can play with this and figure out what the different net revenue could be. And what's really important for you to focus on is your close rate, because we can see here at the industry average, a close rate of 1%, well, you're only making $625 off of 50 leads. That's a lot to do to make $625. So this is where you really want to focus. So once you know what your actual close rate is, you want to really start looking at what you're doing and figure out what can I do to improve my close rate. So like I said, I'm going to email this to everyone. And if anybody has questions about how to use it, you can reach out to me. Okay. So as I said, what you want to do is you want to track your commission. So after the split, your estimated annual lead volume, your close rate, and then your costs. Okay. So what's next? Well, I've got some homework for you, really. I want you to dedicate a specific lead outreach time, maybe daily, depending on your lead volume, maybe weekly, but put it in your calendar and commit yourself to doing this. What else? Well, familiarize yourself with Smart Studio's 45-day online lead conversion action plan. So get in there. Like I said, when I was showing you and I was hovering over those little blue dots and showing you the explanation of what means what and the logic behind the different steps, get in there. Really take some time to read the logic, read all the scripts, and customize as desired. Next, you really need to assess your current ROI and ask yourself, are you closing at the rate that you want? If you're not closing at the rate that you want, then assess your current outreach strategy. Ask yourself some tough, honest questions. Are you doing the right things? And if you're not, then figure out what you need to change. The last thing you should do is turn on notifications for daily digest. And I'm going to show you how to do that because some people don't know what the daily digest is. So let me show you. So, with Smart Studio, you have to go into calendar to see your upcoming tasks. And some people have complained to me that that doesn't really help them organize their time well. Because they have to log into the RLP, then go to Studio, then click on calendar and go, well, what do I have to do today? But if you go over here to settings, and of course now, my internet is just doesn't like me at the moment. Let me just refresh my little page here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we go to settings and then we click on notifications If you enable your activity digest email, what you'll do is you will receive an email every day with your daily tasks that are associated with your action plans, and um, and then from that email you can click and it brings you directly to the contact. So for example, the email will say, call Jennifer 2 p.m. today. And then when I click on Jennifer's name, it brings me directly into my book, and it brings me right to her. The moment that I click on my email, it brings me right into this, and then I can go in and I can do my stuff. So what you need to do to make 2019 a success for yourself, and specifically with the leads, like I said, you plan your time, get to know the action plans, assess your ROI, look at your outreach strategy, and follow up, follow up, follow up. And doing these things will ensure that you will have success with the leads in the coming year. So I just want to remind you also that the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. So leads do require work. I'm not going to lie to you, they require work. But with the tools that are at hand, with the planning that you can do, with the assessment of your strategies, you will have success. So I'm going to leave it at here, open up for questions. I saw a few that I noted that came in. This is my contact information, Stephanie Gellman there. Customer care is here if you need any technical help. If you have any questions about how to do stuff in Smart Studio, customer care is your first line to get in touch with. And so, okay, so I noticed, and just so you guys know, Jennifer's still online here too. So if you have any questions for her, specifics about her strategies and stuff, feel free to throw them in the chat as well. But I did see there was a question from Vince early on, and he said, well, how do I get the leads? That's a great question. So, everybody in the network is available to get leads from their own listings, and these are called designated leads. Then there's other leads that are called distributed leads, and those also come from LePage.ca, and those are ones from competitor listings, so Century 21s, Remax, that kind of thing, that are on our site. Now, to participate in the distributed leads, and so those will be buyer leads, you need to talk to your broker or manager at your office. The availability varies extremely across the country because we are a humongous country. And so really at the brokerage level, they know what is available and they'll tell you what is their criteria for joining. Jennifer shared with us at her office, they're kind of strict. So they have a small team of people who are really dedicated to doing all the best practices. Someone asked, John asked, do the leads know? Hang on, let me just find that question from John. Was something about, do the leads know? Do you let the leads know the listing they are asking about is not your own listing? So I think that was a question for Jennifer. It sounds like that was more of a specific one. Jennifer, do you let the leads know the listing they are asking about is not your own listing?
No. It comes in and we just deal with it. Take the information, look up the property. If they were to ask, is this your listing? But anything that you send them will have your name on it as a contact person, right?
See, is it just kind of obvious that it's not your listing?
I've never been really asked if it's my listing, and I've never,
Yeah.
had any concerns with that. It hasn't been a concern for any of the clients, that's for sure.
Okay. I see there's a question from Rika about importing contacts. Yeah, Rika, that's definitely a question that you want to get in touch with customer care about. That's definitely a technical support thing. So reach out to customer care for that. I see a question from Julio, or maybe, yeah, Julio, I want to say. He's asking, who is providing leads, RLP head office or realtors? Yeah, so the leads are all from our website, royallepage.ca. So, you know, so it's not from realtors per se. I guess technically it's from Royal LePage head office because it's coming from our national website. And then there's a question about the cost from Angela. Yeah, Angela, like I said, because the availability and the amount of leads varies so much across the country, then yeah, that's definitely a question to ask your broker. Okay. I see a question that says, what is the time frame from time that the lead asked a question to it getting to an agent? And that's a question from Leah. So, Jennifer, can you talk about how, you mentioned your office has that 5-minute time limit? What does that mean exactly?
As soon as a lead comes in to each of us individuals that are on the team, there's a timer with it, and it starts as soon as it gets sent to you, and it starts counting down 5 minutes. And so there's a button that responds that you want to accept the lead or decline. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you've accepted the lead, I generally send them an email right away.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. So, yeah, just to kind of expand on that, um, so the lead, from the moment that a lead fills out the form, it immediately goes into the system and it's immediately dispatched to an agent. Each office can set their time limit. So, we don't Shark Tank leads. It just goes to one agent at a time. And then once that agent reaches their time limit, whatever the office has decided based on their own unique needs, in Jennifer's case, it's 5 minutes. So if she gets one offered to her, and if she's busy or doing something else and she doesn't respond within 5 minutes, it's offered to the next agent. And then if that person doesn't answer, then it goes to the next agent, and so on and so on. But yeah, Leah, so it's instantaneous in the sense that as soon as the lead sends out the message, it goes into the system, and then it's just all a matter of how quickly you guys reply. And yeah, okay. So I see a few questions just kind of general about the program. Do we need to talk to our broker to be part of Smart Leads, or can we talk to RLP directly? Yeah, you definitely need to speak to your broker about that, Zita. So yeah, yeah. And Julio, you're asking about the price, and really, like I said, it's just very, very different depending on each office. So the example that I showed with the ROI thing, that's just one of many possible situations that could arise. Some offices charge, yeah, they're really all over the place. So I just picked a random one that is kind of the typical. Okay. So let's see here. Now I just see some questions. Yes, Zita. Yeah. So the brokers, yeah, they pick who's going to be part of the program. Absolutely. It's the broker, the manager, whoever's in charge at your office. They're the ones that decide who participates. And yeah. Okay. Okay, so I mean, the rest I think looks like pretty specific questions that you guys, I invite you to email me or call me to talk about those specifically, because like I said, a lot of this is so different coast to coast that I really can't answer in any general forms. But you have my contact info up there. Don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Yeah, and I just want to thank everyone so much. I want to thank Jennifer for joining us. This was really exciting. And if you need help up in North Bay, she is your gal, right?
Thanks, Stephanie.
Right. Thank you very much for joining me, Jennifer. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us and watching us. And yeah, looking forward to you joining me next year. I'm going to have a lot more webinars next year as well. So also feel free to send me emails if you have ideas. If there's certain things that you think are important topics that you would like to learn more about, then let me know. Okay. Yeah. And if you want to be a guest speaker, um, also get in touch with me and tell me because I love guest speakers. Have a great day, everyone.